All right, guys, we're back with the last debate. And this one, again, it's another one about Libra. And this one was interesting. It was kind of somewhat more theoretical. The claim was using Libra means trusting Facebook. If the project succeeds, it could mean the end of the decentralized era of cryptocurrency, whatever that means. But no, for real though, so crypto is all about this newfound obsession that we have with decentralization. The idea is something that's too centralized has too much power, it's unchecked, and so we're trying to decentralize different parts of the economy, whether it's the financial economy, social economy, etc. And Facebook Coin, because it's run or backed by Facebook, is it's not fully decentralized, at least not in the way that we traditionally think of decentralization. And so the claim, it seems like, says that if the project succeeds, it can mean the end of this decentralized era of cryptocurrency. Like Facebook is going to come in and ruin it all for us. And honestly, I really don't like talking about decentralization for the sake of decentralization. Decentralization is a means to an end. And what I mean by that is, like, you're using decentralization to solve a problem. For example, one of the big problems that we claim that we're solving in crypto is typically that we're trying to bank the unbanked. People who don't have access to financial services can now access cryptocurrency, which is borderless and accessible to anyone with a phone. So if Facebook Coin, for example, solves the problem of banking the unbanked, then why does it really matter how quote-unquote decentralized this thing is? You can argue that, right? So anyways, I want to dive into what the TruStory community thinks of whether if Libra succeeds, it means the end of the decentralized era of cryptocurrency. And I'll start off with the argument on the backing side. So it looks like William chose to back this argument. And he's like, he lists a few reasons. He's like, for one, Calibra is a custodial wallet. Custodial means, they own your private keys, they control the funds, and it's run by this single entity. So all this makes Facebook centralized. It's not decentralized in the way we think of it as. Secondly, Facebook has the potential to share financial data. So when the announcement happened, Kevin Mayle, who's the VP of product of Calibra, and Calibra is a wallet that Libra will be accessible through. They said that Calibra will never share financial data with Facebook's advertising division. But William pulled up a section in their white paper or website which says literally how we share information. And he says this is not the best start. And the section goes into how they share your information with certain third parties as set forth below, with authorized third-party vendors and service providers, partners, legal and safety purposes, etc., etc. So he says, the fact that they're doing this it ushers the end of the decentralized era. And lastly, he says the Facebook Association is sketchy. So some of the economics behind this is that there's a bunch of consortium of companies that are going to back the blockchain that Libra lives on. And there's an association for these validators, and these partners that are part of this association earn interest on the Libra reserve. He's like, this looks too sketchy. It's not decentralized. Yada yada yada. And finally, he makes a point that Libra is built with many of the characteristics of current cryptos, and I dug into what he meant here. And he basically says, look, Libra, it's trying to serve the unbanked. It facilitates cheap cross-border transactions. It has feasible governance model. It's backed by tangible asset. It stores value with reasonable levels of volatility. It has its own programming language. It supports third-party smart contracts, and it can scale. So the only thing missing from the puzzle is that it's not interoperable. So basically, he's saying Libra took all the best parts of the crypto and eliminated the unfeasible parts and made a new system and said we aren't competing. And so if Facebook does this and is successful, then it sure as hell is competing, and it could mean the end of the decentralized era for all the reasons he highlights before. So that's a side that supports this claim. On the other hand, you have a couple people who challenged it. And for one, Paul Apiwat says look, it's possible to use Libra without giving Facebook your data. So Calibra, the wallet, that's just one of many wallets that can be built to trade and use Libra. And it's possible to use Libra without using that wallet. And he says a caveat though is that Facebook will probably make it ultra convenient to stick to the Calibra wallet, so most people will probably use it. And so he doesn't believe that this means the end of the decentralized era because there's other options available. And on the other side, you also had Matchstick Quarter said, like Facebook's power is largely checked here. He doesn't believe that it's the end of the decentralized era. He's like, the Facebook Libra blockchain is governed by a diverse group of independent entities where decision makers require 2/3 majority, and it uses a Byzantine fault tolerance to reach consensus. And over time, their goal is to more and more decentralize the backend. So he says, like, it's not the end of the decentralized era for that reason. Moreover, he goes further and says, look, like most people and some people in these other developing nations would probably rather trust a checked Facebook compared to their government or central banks, or even a decentralized blockchain where they don't know who's in charge. So he's saying, like, if you're in a developing country, you're probably gonna trust a checked Facebook rather than some other central entity. So it doesn't mean the end of a decentralized era. Overall, he kind of concludes with saying, look, Facebook Libra can actually be a bridge to the adoption of the decentralized crypto, and the two can coexist. You don't have to be super dramatic about this. Finally, Ning also challenges this here, and she makes an interesting argument. And kind of one of the interesting points I want to highlight here is she's like, it's a win-win. I don't think like whether Libra succeeds or fails, it's a win-win because either it succeeds and it shows that it's enough for the industry, meaning like it solves the biggest problems that we're trying to solve with crypto, for example, banking the unbanked, or it doesn't succeed, or because like it's accepted, but like there's some deficiencies, for example, maybe it's too centralized or whatnot. And so then we realize, or most people start to realize, the real need for a decentralized cryptocurrency. So she says either way, it's a win-win, and I don't think we need to be all this dramatic about it ushering the end of the decentralized era. So that's a wrap for the 5 debates that we had about the Libra coin. I hope you enjoyed these summaries, and I hope you found it informative. I'm curious to see what you think about some of these. So if you have any comments or your own thoughts and your own arguments, put them in the comments, and I'll see you later.